Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to this game's tutorial. Today we finally take care of the final step for these little research container thing. It is pretty much this part over here. So on the button we now have the currency and how much we need. So this one would be the gold when we have our gold icon times 5,000, which is the real cost, the gold cost. And just below it is the loot cost. When we click on it, it pretty much says, well, you don't have enough loot. So basically I have enough gold, as you can see, I got 5,000. But I don't have enough silk because I need actually 50 silk, and I only have one right now, 0. So whenever I hit this, nothing happens. Say we go back here, we modify our loot cost, we put that on 0. That means we should not actually be required to pay a loot. And here we go, we actually removed it from the button, and I can actually start my research now. It also updates my gold, and we're pretty much ready to go. So without further ado guys, let's get started. Alright, so today should be the final part of our research container. We are finally about to be done with this one. So what else do we need? We need to actually set a cost to our thing and actually charge it to the user. So this part here where it says start, instead of saying start, we're going to get rid of that whole start button. We are simply going to remove the text inside of it. Well, maybe not remove, but we're going to take it out and put some other stuff such as a icon for the gold, and then next to it a text for the amount of gold this is going to cost. Now just below that, if there is a currency to pay as well, not a currency, sorry, a loot, then we're going to put a loot icon and then the text next to it. So we need to redo the little prefab. So let's click on it actually. That's the level up button right here. This is made of the button message, which is this one, so button message. And just below this is the duration. Now duration doesn't really have anything to do here, so let me just take it out. And it's going to break our code, that is for sure, but we'll fix it in a moment. So duration is now out. I will scale up the button a little bit, so maybe 50, move it down. And here we go. So now we've got the button message. Let's put something here, completed. This button message is going to be turned off whenever we have to display the costs. But we're still going to leave it here. We're still going to leave it in the prefab. And now this is where we actually have to create new stuff. So I will right click on the level up button. I will create a panel. So let's find a panel right here. I'll make it red so we can see it. Reddish, like that. And what I plan on doing is actually putting that on top of the button message. So as you can tell now, the button message is over this. The panel is not really useful, we're going to be turning it off later on, but it's going to help us see the actual section we make in this. So on this very panel, on the cost panel, I'm going to add a vertical layout group. Now this is going to resize and reposition every element below that. So let's right click on the cost panel, create another panel, so UI panel. And this is what we're going to be using for the actual cost. Now you can duplicate it real quick to actually look at the size of it. But we only need one at the moment. This is cost 1. And under cost 1, we are going to have a horizontal layout group. Now below this is where we actually put our image. So let's right click on that, UI, image. And let's also create a text there, so text. Alright, so this is the kind of result we get. It's pretty awful. Let's try to fix it really quickly. I'm temporarily going to turn off this button message so we can see what's going on. And this is what we've got. So basically we've got this image which is really scaled in a poor manner, and also the text. So let's type in something in the text, something like cost, and let's put X50. As for the image, this is the icon of whatever currency we're using, so I think this is actually fine. It's going to resize itself. So let's go on the cost, see if we can change the child alignment for middle center. Does that work? That is going to work. So you are going to put the child alignment on middle center, remove the force expand on both width and height, and now we're going to give this an actual icon. So maybe the knob for now because we still don't have icons. And this is what it's going to look like. So we have a single panel that looks like this. Let's duplicate it like so. So Control C, Control V. And this is going to be cost number 2. If we have to put a loot cost, this is where it's going to be. And in case we don't have a loot cost, we can simply disable this and it's going to look that way in the game. Alright, so let's re-enable everything. Maybe on the cost panel I want to add a spacing of say -5 so they're closer to each other. And I will now turn off every single panel, so turn off all the images, we don't really need them. And here we go. Oh, well, actually we need this one, we don't need the image. So this is what it looks like. It's a little bit messy when we look at it from the inspector, but we're going to be turning this off or this one off when we're actually playing the game. Let's make sure we save this. So under the research container, I will now hit apply. So now this is the new structure of our research container. And we probably broke a lot of things, so let's have a look whenever we press on play. We go in the game, research, and this is obviously not going to work, so we pretty much broke everything. Now we're gonna have to fix it. So we are going to open up the research container. And it should only take a moment. Let's zoom in on that. This is what we used to do here. We used to put the description text in 0, then the cost, duration, person completed. So we're gonna have to redo this little helper we've got. So on the right side is my Unity, on the left side is my text editor. Let's actually look. Whenever we call a get component in children type of text, we start from here. Now we start scrolling down a little bit. So this one doesn't have any, we're good. This one is the first one, so the research description is the first one. We're still good here, so 0 is equal to research text. Now just below this, we've got the duration. Duration is now what we put in this number 1 array, so the second element. Now under the level up button, there is no text. Let's go into children. Cost panel doesn't have anything on it. If we go in its children again, nothing, nothing, until we hit cost, which is the next one. So that's the cost of the first, so that's the gold cost. Below that, we've got the loot cost, so loot cost. And if we keep going down, we've got the button message, so that would be, I'll just call it button message. And finally, research progress has nothing. Let's go into children, progress bar in either, and then we've got the ratio, so progress bar ratio. Alright, having this noted now, we can actually go change our little array thing here. So that's the button message that is on the index 4. This is the ratio, if I am correct. No, actually this is the duration. So duration is now 1. And finally that's the ratio, so ratio would be 5. So this is what we've got now, 4, 4, actually 4, 1, 1, 5. I'm going to copy this, paste it here, and here. And if you're wondering what I'm doing, is I'm actually holding Alt when I press this, and then I can actually make a square selection. Then I simply copy and paste. Alright, so let's go in the game. We're gonna have a look at this, see if it works. Under research, we now have the cost, which is 50/50. Here's the duration, and that's the in progress button. Now, all we need to do at this point is turn off the in progress button. Or turn off the cost actually, because this is ongoing, so we don't need to see the cost, we only need to see the in progress. And this is what we're going to be doing. So back in our research container, we're going to go say up here, make a public game object. Now this is the exact same thing as the progress bar. You could be going at it the lazy way, like I am right now, or you could be doing an actual search in your object. So this is the button container. And using that button container, let me go set it really quickly back in the game scene. Under research panel, research this, research container, we have the button here. And under the research container is our object. We are going to drag and drop this level up button. And is this going to work? Yes, this is going to work. So level up button goes in here, going to hit apply, so every other children's, whenever I start duplicating this, have the same reference. So let's have a look. We are now going to use that button container to turn on or off some game object. So whenever the research is not started yet, we are going to show the research costs in the button. The way we're going to do this is we are going to hit button container get child or transform.getChild at index 0. That is the first one. That's the cost. So basically, that's the button with the 2 costs on it, and that's what we want on. So we do this child game object set active through. We want to see this, but we don't want to see the button message on top of it. So we are going to do this exact same line. We get the child at index 1, and then we turn that to false. And let's actually copy this over here and swap them around. So this now becomes false, and this now becomes true. Same thing in the last one. So we don't need to see, whenever it's in progress or whenever it is completed, we don't need to see the cost. We only need to see the cost when it is not being started yet. And this is not going to do the job properly. Let's have a look. So we go from the preloader, we enter this scene, go here, under research. Well, we're gonna be resetting this first, so let's do that. Reset save. Okay, so we seem to see these 2 costs. Now these 2 costs are not the actual cost, so that's one of the problem. But here's another one. If one of those were on 0, if the loot costs were on 0, it would still show, and that's not something we can really allow. So what we're going to be doing is up here, we're going to do a little if statement. We're going to say if info.lootCosts is equal to 0, then we don't need to see it. So button container getChild, transform.getChild at the index 0, and then we do another getChild at the index 1. That game object dot set active, we put it on false. We don't need to see the second cost container because it's on 0. And since it has a vertical layout group, it's going to reposition and rescale the first one. Alright, now this is where we should actually keep some references, because we need to set the text inside of the little text icon. So we might actually do that. Let's start by making a game object. So game object cost1 is going to equal button container. Let's see, button container. So button container that transform the get child at the index 0. And I should actually leave it on that. Maybe even put it as a transform. That would be better. Okay, you know what? I am going to just put it at the very top. Sorry about my reorganizing of stuff. So put this at the very top. Cost2 is the exact same thing, but we do get child at the index. Transform get child. Get child again at the index 0, and then this is get child and at the index 1. Okay. So now we just need to be setting values in those. We're going to be modifying this a little bit. So let's first start off by setting the gold cost. So cost1 dot get component in children, and we're getting the image component. So image sprite. For some reason I can't access it. So what is a go in? Oh, we need to do, okay, so get component without a has in children. We get the image component, and then we do dot sprite is equal to something we don't have yet. So we'll be putting that in comment. And we are going to duplicate this line. Now do the same thing with the text. So get component children, type of text is equal, or I mean text.text is equal to, let's start with a little x plus info.goldCost toString. And this is going to fill our first cost object. Now the cost at the second index is the same exact thing. So get component children text, and instead of gold cost, this is going to be the loot cost. Alright, I think we've got pretty much all we need, and this should actually work. Let's have a look. And there's while I was making this code, there's a lot of way to optimize it. We don't actually need to do that right now though, so let's have a look at the game. This actually costs 5,000 gold and also 50 silk. If we take a look at our tower over here, 5,000 gold and 50 silk. So if we put that on 75 and this on this crazy amount, it should actually be updated inside of the buttons. Here we go. And it also takes 5 minutes to complete, so whenever we click on that, it is now in progress. But there's just a little problem here, is we can actually start this without having the gold. So the next step is going to actually set a cost to that. Now, whenever we press on that very button, it calls a function that is called start research, and it's down here. We start coding it a little bit, but of course we don't have any checks, we don't have any remove currency, and that's what we're going to be doing right now. So let's start with the first if statement. If info.goldCost is smaller or equal to the tower instance, we're getting the gold. So we find this at currency, int currency gold. So if we manage to go through this, that means we have enough gold. That's perfect. Now let's do the same thing with the loot. So info.lootCost is smaller or equal to the tower instance loots at the index int info.loot, because that's where we keep our loot for this very research. Then if that's the case, we also have enough loot to buy this, and that's also a good thing. And now we can actually do our function. So let's just put these two inside of here. What else do we need to do? Well, first we need to deduce that currency. So the tower.instance currencies at the index int gold currency.gold minus equal info.goldCost. Then the tower.instance.loot at the index int info.loot is also minus equal to info.loot. Or I mean loot cost. So we deduce these currency. Now we need to update our actual UI. So at the very bottom I will be doing game UI that instance that update currency text like this. And now game UI dot instance update loot container, and that's pretty much why we've made all of these helper function, so we can simply access them like this. So info.loot, and that's pretty much all we need to do for this. I'm also going to end this function with a return, because I feel like doing other things over here in the outside of the if bracket. So in case we don't actually make it in here, then that means we might have made it in here instead. And that would mean that we have enough gold, but we don't have enough loot. So let's pop up, let's actually have the player see some kind of feedback. So not enough loot, pop up. Then we hit return. Of course, we do not have these kind of pop up yet. So we can just be doing a debug.log. So not enough loot. And let's also copy this again, because we're going to be putting it at the very end here, and that is if there is not enough gold. And we always finish this with a return statement, because we don't want, like, say you're actually entering this if, so that means you have enough gold. Then you're being thrown here, but you don't want to call this because you do have enough gold. So that's why we put a return statement there. This one is not really needed, but I just put it because, you know, we've put it here and here and here, so why not? Alright, and that should actually work just fine. Let me start this. Press play. And I am going to just try and research something. Oh, Well, of course it's working now because I started it when there was no condition, so let's hit reset save. Go over here, and that's the result we get. So when I click here, it says not enough gold. Now if I had enough gold, so if we find a way to actually give ourselves some gold, we needed 5,000 I believe, so let's give ourselves 5,000. Oh, it's actually 50,000, but it should be 5, so I'll actually change it from here. Now we play this. I hit the research. It says not enough loot, so now it is the loot that is not enough. Let's go back, put the loot on 0. Going to boot the game again. And there should only be one. Yep, there should only be one little thing here displayed in the button. That's exactly what we want. And now having 5,000 gold, I can actually start this. My gold is now gone and the research has been started. And that is pretty much it, guys, for this video. Thanks a lot for watching. If you learned something or if you enjoyed the video, please let me know by giving me a like. Always really appreciate that. If you have any question or comment, you can leave them in the comment section below and I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. Other than that, please subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.